What is the digital divide? A broad definition of the digital divide is an economic inequality between groups in terms of access to, the use of, or knowledge of information communication technologies, better known by the acronym ICT. For example, the Internet. The digital divide can occur on a broad worldwide spectrum, also known as the global digital divide, or narrowed down to the inequalities within a single nation. For example, the digital divide in the United States. Today, we will be delving deeper into the digital divide within the United States. While the digital divide usually refers to the inequalities in access, skills, or knowledge between developed and undeveloped countries, the digital divide within our own United States refers to the inequalities between individuals, households, and other socio-economic levels of access to ICTs. Gender. As the popularity of the Internet grew, American women far surpassed male users, but as of 2009, gender disparities had waned to only a 1% difference, with male users at 74% and female users at 73%. While using the Internet for monitoring income, education, and for a career, women were known for being a dominant user over men. Women were more enthusiastic about ICT than men, but mainly because women are smarter than men who could not understand techno- Wait, what? Age. As more and more Americans began using the Internet, there was an obvious trend that users between the age of 18 to 29 were more common, with 84% compared to the older generations that held only 39% of Internet users. The digital divide between groups also affected their accessibility to information. Teenagers and middle-aged Americans were using the web more to access information, while the older generations relied on traditional ways of communicating, which was slowly becoming more rare. Once technology began developing and advancing, the seniors were left behind. 64% of the older baby boomers, aged 57 to 65, own desktops, and only 43% own laptops. Generation Y, or the millennials, aged 18 to 24, are the only generation whose laptop use exceeds desktop use, with 70% laptops and 57% desktops. 17% of adults between the age of 66 and 74 years old own a BlackBerry or iPhone, while 63% of people between the ages of 18 to 34 years old own a smartphone as well. Astonishingly enough, only 1% of 18 to 34-year-olds do not own at least one of these devices, including laptops, Blackberries, iPhones, iPods, and e-books. Now in transition, we will look at how the division between race was growing and becoming more evident in creating the digital divide. Race. Since the beginning of data collection, minorities were known for having lower ICT access, and in the year 2000, a census stated that whites were at 50%, Hispanics 43%, and only 34% of African Americans had access to the Internet. In 2007, it was noted that the ICT access percentages had increased. 68% of whites, 77% of Asian Americans, 49% of blacks, 47% of Hispanics had ICT access. The racial gap between Internet users was still evident, though narrowing with time. As compared to whites, blacks with ICT access have generally lagged behind, with the most visible gap between the two races lying within the older generations. In 2003, 11% of African Americans over the age of 65 used the Internet, compared to 22% of older whites. But between the years of 2000 and 2010, the racial population of Internet users has reflected the racial population of the United States. This similarity demonstrated how the racial divide was closing, and over time, the digital divide between races was also dwindling down. In 2010, 76% of Hispanics, 79% of blacks, and 85% of white adults were using cell phones. 34% of white cell phone owners, 40% of Hispanic cell phone owners, and 51% of black cell phone owners use their phones to access the Internet. Income was also a major factor within the digital divide. In 2010, 57% of individuals earning less than $30,000 a year had ICT access, while 80% of individuals earning $30,000 to $49,000 per year had ICT access. Even within that small increase of income, there is still a significant gap. Income has been a major contributor to the digital divide. It was more common for wealthier citizens to have and use the internet. In 2010, 95% of individuals earning $75,000 or more used the web. Only 5% of the wealthier social class were not ICT users, compared to 63% of lower classes. However, the racial gap seemed to narrow when the two races earned the same income. There was only a 5% difference in the amount of black and white ICT users with the income of $30,000, and a 3% difference with an income of $50,000 or more. Money is a barrier for many people, especially dealing with the digital divide. It is evident that higher social classes have a greater access to ICT. This trend is present not only in America, but in other countries as well. There are many factors that create a digital divide, but the United States is narrowing down that gap as new generations enter the ICT world. Let's hope that our country can continue its efforts in narrowing that gap, giving example for the rest of the world to do the same.